When I first demonstrated the Vanishing card online, it sent shockwaves through the Magic community. It was fooling magicians left and right, and they all wanted to know the secret. Finally, the secret's out, and now you can own one of my favorite creations. Everyone that has seen the Vanishing card assumes this trick can only be performed online. Well, tell that to the 100+ magicians I showed it to at Magic Live, or the countless stunned people that I've shown this to live.
How the f you do that?
Isn't that crazy?
Yes!
Isn't that wild? The gimmick has been built to my highest standards, and is one of the most fun tricks to practice that I've ever seen. It's like watching real magic. I'm Nicholas Lawrence, and this is the Vanishing card. Hey guys, Nicholas Lawrence here, and welcome to the Vanishing card. As you guys see from the trailer, it's super visual, and you've probably even caught clips of this thing on Instagram and just wondering how the heck it works. And you're probably super excited to finally get it in your hands and start playing with the gimmick and learning it, practicing it, and performing it. So I'm just gonna cut right to it, guys. Let's look at what you get and learn how to perform this thing. Let's take a look at what you receive. So inside the packaging, you're gonna have the main gimmick. But you're also going to have this little piece here, this black art piece that has magnets. We're going to get to this later, but I can just say this is used so that basically you can perform the Vanish just a little bit cleaner, maybe a darker environment if you're wearing darker clothes. It just allows to show your hands just a little bit more clean, a little bit more empty. But we will get to that. The gimmick, as you guys can see, it looks pretty good from this angle, right? But if you turn it around, this heavily relies on the step principle. Right? So this is what you see. You see this harsh line, right? But from their perspective, right, you see nothing. It just looks nice and smooth, right? And this is coming out of a deck of cards, which we'll talk about more later. And with, you know, their perception on this is it's just a playing card, so it's nothing really to worry about. If you're not really comfortable with gimmicks, this is definitely one of those ones where it's going to kind of freak you out because of your view. But just remember, if it looks bad for you from your angle with the step illusion, it looks great for them. But again, this is the gimmick. We'll get more into how to perform it, but you can see it just slides in, right, with magnets, locks in, and it locks with magnets in this direction as well. So that's the basic functionality of the gimmick. It's all made out of plastic, so there's no actual playing card used with this, and that's kind of nice. So if this thing gets dirty, you can actually wipe it with a real damp cloth and just clean it off. But yeah, now that you know what the gimmick is, what you've received, kind of a bit of how it works, let's get into what's next. So let's take a look at how to actually perform this, how your basic setup is. Guys, this is very straightforward. You're gonna have a deck of cards. You're gonna have your gimmick card on top of the deck, just like that, so you can easily grab it. Technically, you could just perform this on video. If you wanted, you could just have just the card in your hands and just start like this. But I think it's cool to kind of sneak this gimmick in from your pocket, add it to the pack, maybe after you've done a few tricks, and then just utilizing it as a Vanish in maybe any of your routines, any of your current existing routines that use a Vanish. Maybe you're doing something like, you know, a rub-a-dub Vanish, but you just want to step it up. Maybe you're doing something for social media, or you're on a TV appearance, you want to do something bigger, something more eye-catching. You can just replace it with this in that sense. How do I use it? I use it just talking about how magicians make things vanish, and when learning how to make things vanish. And you can say, you know, when I learned how to vanish a card, I talk about the back palm, right? If you guys don't know what the back palm is, it's pretty straightforward. It's like this. You can learn this pretty much anywhere. But again, it doesn't matter what vanish you're doing, right? It's just talking about the action of making a card vanish, which they might even just like seeing that. That looks cool. And you're going to have this card on the top of the deck. And what you're going to want to do now is just push off this card, grab the card, put the deck down or put it in your pocket, place the card into your hand like so. Very clean, showing that there's nothing else in your hands. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pinch it right on the edge here. Okay, they can't see it, but you can. Right on the edge of the card here. And when you bring the card up, okay, this should be kind of chest up, okay? You don't want to tilt this card too far forward because you guys are probably already seeing that line. If you keep it straight up and down, or if anything, slightly kicked back, that's your sweet spot. So always remember that. Okay, so once you're in this position, you're gonna go ahead and grab the bottom corner like this, release this hand. This hand shouldn't be going all around. It should all be very seamless, right? You're here, you're here, you're here, and you're gonna go into the vanish. So don't leave this area. So as soon as you let go, you open the hand. Your thumb is already behind the card, okay? As you come up like this, you're gonna remember the placement of your first finger. As it's going up, right, with the whole hand obviously, but your finger is most important, your first finger. Once you know it's right at this line here, that's when you're gonna be doing a couple of things. Now this is gonna be a little bit weird at first, but there's a big lesson in this. I'm just gonna kind of run through it, but there's a real big lesson we're gonna get to, in which as soon as that finger gets here, you're gonna be using your thumb to pull the gimmick in to the gimmick, like this, as the hand continues to rise up, okay? And what that's gonna cause is an isolation of this top half of the gimmick. This gimmick is technically moving because your hands are moving, but because it's an isolation, and what I mean by that is this piece is never leaving this frame. That's what you're going for. The biggest mistake I've seen with a lot of people who have tried to imitate this vanish from Instagram is they'll do something that looks like this. And this is what you want to avoid. Okay? This is very strange because if you're still seeing a card up here and your fingers are down here, cards are not a foot long, right? A card is only 3.5 inches tall. So you really want to keep this isolated in that space like so, okay? And that's the big lesson, is isolation. So always remember that. Keep that in mind. And also keep in mind, like I'm saying, never tilt the card too far forward, okay? Don't have this hand drifting far away. There's no need. Keep everything very tight. So it's here, here, here. Your thumb's already in the back. Your hand starts to come up. As soon as your first finger, you know it gets to the magnets or to that line. That's when your thumb on the back is at the same time reaching up, pinching, okay? And a good place to remember is you're not pinching with the tip of your thumb and pulling down. This is not what you're doing. You're doing it flat, and you're almost using the joint of your thumb. That's where the pressure is going to be pressing. So you can almost remember this, what this looks like. This is the position you are in behind the card. And it might feel a little weird, but this is what you want to do, so keep that in mind. So basically, just all from the top here again, I'm going to go through this, all the actions one more time as I kind of list them out for you. Open display. You can use your finger to kind of pinch to pull this down if you like. Grab at the seam. Grab the corner. Hands stay right where they are. Finger starts at the bottom, starts to go up as you reach with the thumb. As soon as you get to that area, you're going to pinch and make contact, not letting go with the hand. Start to pull the card in as the hand goes up, isolating this top part of the card in its exact position. That does not want to move. Try to keep it as close as you can. Avoid going upward like this too much. Okay, so all at the same time, it's here, 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 here. And now we're going to kind of get to what you do at this point. So once it's gone, what do you do? So I personally like to not to continue going up. I prefer to get here, here, and as soon as you get just above the card where it would be, you kind of shoot to the right like this. So it looks like this. Here, here, shoot to the right. Okay, show the hand empty, and you're here. And all I'm doing is kind of like a hand washing technique, but I'm mostly just depositing this gimmick into my left hand. All right, so it's here. You start to do that pulling in motion, pulling that card in, keep it isolated. Shoot to the left or right, just like this. I kind of tip my hand back a little bit because you don't want to expose this at the top. Again, even with my hands are pretty big, I can cover the whole gimmick, but I like to keep it a little bit above my first finger, just basically right at the horizon of it. And if you're just flat out like this, you might see it. So I like to tip backwards slightly. Just always keep that in mind. especially when holding the card. It's tipping back, right? Same thing. So once you up, you kind of tip back, shoot to the right here, hold in that finger position. And then what you're going to do is you're going to deposit this into your hand by kind of showing your hands clean. It's as clean as you can kind of show it. This is small object manipulation. So you're going to take that card, whether it be a ball or whatever, and it's going to get deposited into this hand like this as you kind of wash the hand like that. So it's because you're showing one hand empty, or at least they know that this hand is empty, right? Like this. And then it's here, here. So kind of an more exposed view. You're here, shoot to the right, empty, empty, like this. Okay, so you're kind of in this position. It's kind of in a copped position. Can be in the palm, it can really be anywhere, but I like it right about here. Okay. So once the card's in that vanished position, right, you're talking about your cleanup here. We've kind of went to the side, and how we're going to be depositing this gimmick into the clean hand. So you're going to go up, tilt back, shoot to the right a little bit, or to the left, depending on which hand you're using. You're going to show this hand empty, okay, and this is going to get deposited into the clean hand, almost like a hand washing technique, where it's like you're just washing your hands clean. You're showing there's nothing in this hand, nothing in that hand. And again, what you're really doing is depositing the gimmick from my right hand to my left hand. So it's here, 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 here. More of exposed view. I'm going to get into a little bit more detail in a second, but once it's in here, pull to the right, show the hand empty, deposit, here. Okay. And a little bit of a tip in how to have a lot of control with the gimmick and in depositing it is I use my pinky. My pinky slightly comes, ever so slightly comes down, actually more so comes back to curl around the corner of the card so that I can let go of my thumb, and what it's going to do is it's going to tip backward like this. And I discovered this because I needed to get it to go into the hand very smoothly, right? So from here, I needed to go into the hand very smoothly with no hiccups. If I'm sitting there taking my time and I'm going like this, I'm itching around to place it, it seems a little weird. So really take it just smoothly. It's almost like it's just dropping right into the hand flat, okay? Just like that, and you're clean. Now another thing you can do, and this is more so for video, it's the nowhere palm, which is generally used with coins, but with a card. And I say why it's best for video because this is much larger than most coins. And nowhere palm, if you're not familiar, is essentially this. It's hiding behind the finger. So your hands are closed, you'd open for a moment, and just kind of flash so they can see between your fingers and hopefully see nothing. But again, for video, it's kind of a fun thing to do. So if you don't want to do this and deposit, technically before depositing into your other hand, you could do this. Use your pinky to clip it down, and then start to curl your ring finger in, and it's going to press the gimmick into the meaty part of your thumb here, like this. And you're going to have contact between the tip of your finger, and like I said, the meaty part of your thumb, and it's just in this position. And I'll show you what that would look like. You'd be here, vanish the card, come upward, a little bit of a flash, then a deposit, and that just feels a little bit more clean. But yeah, something definitely to play with and experiment with. But that pretty much wraps up the main handling on how to utilize the gimmick and use it for a standard vanish. Let's get into how to use the black art piece. So guys, I pretty much have covered how to perform with the gimmick, and it's almost identical. And what this black art's going to allow you to do is it's basically a substitute from when I was teaching how to show your hands clean. So just using just the gimmick as its own, you have to learn how to transfer it from hand to hand like this. Something I didn't mention, but you could totally do it as well, is you could technically just get here, bring your hands down and lap it to the table or into a servant. There's a lot of things you could do, but the black art is a really, really fun solution on how to show the fingers opened up at this point and you won't see anything. And how that works is this is magnetic and just covers the gimmick. So when it's behind the hand and in your fingers, you're not going to see much, especially with you're wearing a black shirt and with the proper lighting. So maybe in the studio environment with these really bright lights, you guys might be catching it, which should help you to know exactly in the position it's in. But just note, black art's generally performed in a darker environment, and it really is just going to give you an option of cleanliness that you wouldn't have had with just the gimmick on its own. So keep that in mind. This isn't for everybody. But let's go over how to do it, how to use it. So I like to start with the magnetic gimmick on the back of the card, just like this. So that way you can do everything just as you learned, essentially, except for one little offbeat thing that you're going to do. So instead of just picking up the card and going right into the Vanish, you have to pick up the card, and just as you're kind of maybe talking, or if you're performing this to people, you might have to kind of pass it from hand to hand as maybe you're describing, maybe you're a storyteller. You're going to take the opportunity to thumb the gimmick off into your hand secretly. Okay, you can do it with the left hand that's holding the card and pushing it over, or you could even steal it with this hand as you grab it like this. Okay, just by reaching kind of deep with the thumb and just sliding it off. Okay, always remember keeping that card tilted back so you don't expose the line. All right, but once you get that black art piece into the hand secretly, now is when you want to have this card in position for Vanish, just like before, holding that lower left-hand corner or right-hand corner. Okay, you're going to take your hand, and just like before, you're going to start from the bottom, start to go up the card. And if you're holding this lightly, what's going to happen, and as long as you're really close to the card, it's got to be pretty much touching the card, you're going to feel the magnet polarities, and it's going to start to attract, and everything's going to want to start to align to the card. Now don't worry about your finger being underneath that. That's going to go away in a second. But as long as all the other magnets are connected, you're in a good place. So at this point, what you're going to want to do, which is slightly different, and this is after, believe it or not, playing with my friend Nick Popa, he was able to kind of figure out the best way to perform this. So if you perform this, just like the main tutorial, you're going to have problems because this black art's going to slip around the card. Okay? But what Nick came up with is if you just kind of go in a little bit deeper into the hand, you give it a subtle, the slightest squeeze, basically catching the actual edges of the gimmick on your skin, it's going to minimize the chance of this sliding around. Okay, it's going to stay nice and aligned, and everything's great. Okay, just by slight squeeze, and then doing exactly like before, your thumb pulling the gimmick in. Okay, they're probably still kind of wondering, I wonder about this a little bit, but what does this do? What does this black art do? Well, as soon as you get to this point, okay, you can pretty much start flashing right between your fingers immediately, like this, okay? And it really allows for your thumb to come up and out of view like you're not holding anything. By just continuing that pressure, that grip from your fingers to your palm, mainly my ring finger for this, it allows you to really open up the fingers, extend the thumb, and really give them that nice, clean display. Hold on, it's right here. Really nice, clean display of there's nothing inside the hand. And again, guys, I don't know how this looks in this studio. It really shouldn't look that great. This isn't a black art environment. But again, in a darker environment, you should be able to open your hand, absolutely see nothing. And this isn't something you go like, look, there's nothing in my hand, right? It's a very subtle thing to be considering. This black art can go a long way if used properly. So kind of just from the start to finish here, guys, and hopefully I can kind of think of a few more things to mention on the way, is it's just like before. You're going to display the card, okay? You're going to find time to steal that black piece off by passing kind of hand to hand, okay? Steal it off. Get into the vanishing position. Slowly line everything up. Okay, let the magnets connect. Just like before. But now, instead, remember to try to grip the edge of the card just ever so slightly by having it more deeper into the palm. Okay? Start to pull it down. Remember just all the tips from before, that isolation. It's going up into the hand, right? So really nice and smooth from the top is like this. Here, slight squeeze, start to pull it in as you go up. Immediately show it empty. You can still do your deposit. And from here, if you're at a table, Okay, guys, you can just lap this. It'll fall down. Or once it's gone, you can now take this hand and just reach right into your pocket and maybe pull out a deck of cards. Maybe it's went into the middle of the deck between two jokers. Maybe it's went to a card box. Really, this is just a vanish. You guys can utilize it any way you like. But the best part is, once you've shown the gimmick with the black art and it's empty, you've deposited it to your hand, you're practically done. That's it. You're clean. That card is gone. In their mind, it's completely vanished and only can appear wherever you could imagine. So that's the black art handling and how to use it. One quick thing to mention is if this is slipping and sliding on you too much, you guys can add a little bit of wax to this, like a thin layer, almost like a white crayon would work, or maybe like a stick of wax or even a candle, maybe even some double stick tape if you just remove most of the stickiness from it. Anything to give you just a little bit of grip. So again, if you're having that problem, a little bit of grip will definitely solve it. Definitely wanted to mention that. But besides that, that's all you need to know about the black art piece. Let's get into how to repair your gimmick if it breaks. Good news, it's probably not going to break. There's pretty much only one thing that can go wrong with this, and that is these little edges here. Okay, these are all glued down and stuck with tape, but there are little parts in here that possibly could start to unpeel or break. So if that does happen, take a little bit, I mean, a little goes a long way, of some super glue and just dab it in there. Sometimes even take an extra playing card and I put a little bit of glue on the edge of the card and just kind of stick that into the layers, like almost like a little paintbrush. And that'll really help. Okay, give it a press, make sure you're not gluing your fingers to the gimmick. Okay, and again, that's pretty much the only thing that can go wrong with this gimmick breaking. So keep that in mind. As long as you take care of it and you're not bending it, once this thing bends, you're not going to be able to unbend it. Unfortunately, these are made out of plastic for durability reasons and for longevity, right? Like I mentioned before, this is something you can kind of clean with a wet sponge if it gets dirty. Besides that, you got yourself a really sturdy gimmick. But I did want to just kind of cover that, mention it, so you guys feel just a little bit better with every in and out. So a bit of brief history on this gimmick and the aesthetic of the Vanish, how I came up with it, how it all kind of came about. And later I'm going to mention another guy, a friend mentioned it, that another guy had done something similar as well with the Statue of Liberty, not David Copperfield, but similar, we'll get to it, is basically what makes this Vanish different than all other Vanishes? You guys probably noticed, it's vanishing from the bottom up, right? Which is kind of illogical because most of the time when you make something vanish, it's usually you would cover it. Maybe you would do some sort of like 10-cut palm or something you use complete cover, or you would do a slow from the top to the bottom, right? Which kind of makes sense where it's going. It's just collapsing. Where with this, it's actually vanishing from the bottom up. So it's almost like if this thing was the Statue of Liberty, which we'll get to in a moment, the legs are vanishing before the chest and the head, right? Interestingly enough. So how I came up with this, I actually seen a CGI magician, which I'm not a big fan of those kinds of guys, but they do give me some inspiration. If I see Zach King or somebody doing these things on Instagram using video editing, I'm able to take that imagery and figure out how can I apply magic methodology, sliders and magnets and pockets and anything I can think of to make it work, right? So I seen a CGI magician do this with a playing card. It looked beautiful, and I just had to make it a reality. And that's how it came about. And as I mentioned, I've never seen anybody do anything like this before. I consider it a very illogical way to make it vanish, and it's very beautiful, but it's very new, and I've never seen anything done like this before. But a friend had mentioned a guy named Andre Cole. Apparently he even worked with David Copperfield on Vanishing the Statue of Liberty, and he had his own method and did it with a small scale model where he actually made the feet, the legs, and onward vanish while the chest and the head were actually floating in midair, which you're getting a very similar visual with this, and it's just such a beautiful thing. And just by conversation, we were able to dive a little deeper and figure out where does this come from? Who else has done something similar? So shout out to Andre Cole for vanishing the miniature Statue of Liberty, how he did. I personally haven't seen it, but I'm taking a friend's word, and I think it sounds amazing. So that's just a bit of history and talking about where and what this came from and who has done it before me in any way, sense, or form. I just want to cover all ground. So here's just a couple of ideas off the top of our head here at the P3 Magic Studio. Some of the guys here are saying, you know, let's think of some other things you guys can use with this. Even if I'm not, you know, actually using these things, what else could you do with it if you were to start to get creative? One of the ideas from Eric Tate was having the gimmick collapsed and maybe hiding it behind a card going left to right, okay, and then pulling the card from beneath it like this. All right, so it's like this couldn't be appearing because it's not the right length, right? So this looks very, very cool, kind of interesting, or like this, maybe even pushing it in like that potentially. So just play with maybe the cover of a playing card. I think this is actually a really cool idea, like that, making a card vanish. That's fun. Thanks, Eric Tate. That's cool. Another idea would maybe to make the card appear, which is also from Eric, talking about having it in your hand already and just making it appear like so. Right? Again, I might not be doing this perfect because for me it's just an idea, but I think if you guys were to put the time into it, and if you like this idea, I think you can make this look really cool. That's fun. Another kind of quick little handling idea is maybe something like, what if you had a face-up card on top of the deck like this, and you had this card covering it? Maybe you could do something like this and make a card appear. That's kind of interesting. Again, these are just ideas on this really, really, when you think about it, very simple method of just a collapsing card and what you could really get out of this. Sure, you can get a really cool vanish and that looks awesome, but maybe like Eric mentioned, you can make a card appear for something. Maybe you can make it vanish in a way that you never thought you would, or never way I thought I would. Kind of recapping here, I think this is really cool, is going into it like this. This is fun. Or like Eric said, making it up here like that, which feels a little more knacky. I think maybe this might be, let's see how this will look, guys. Again, this is just fun, this little jam. We're just chilling here and coming up with ideas. I think that's kind of fun. Guys, just some fun ideas. Practice the routine, but once you're done with that, start playing with these fun ideas and see what else you come up with. All right, so that's a wrap, guys. I hope you enjoyed everything that was taught on this project. I'm super excited to finally get it out there again. I hope you guys really enjoyed it and you actually get out there and perform it. Take the time to practice it. Remember all the tips I went over. Really give it the time it deserves. And again, just remember everything I've said about it, because it really is one of those types of effects. Even after you've learned, you really want to make sure you remember everything, because it needs to look just perfect. So again, guys, practice it, perform. And again, if you enjoyed it, leave a review. It definitely really helps us out here. So guys, with all that said, we'll see you next time.